What up, guys? We're back, but as you can see, I got something a little different in here today. I pushed the old rust bucket out of the way. What we got here is a local houndsman's truck. He ran into some issues on his last little outing, chasing some mountain lions, and asked if I could fix it for him. I don't know if you'll be able to see it in there, but there's a piece of frame missing there. I don't know if you can see it or not, if it's too dark. I guess it's the second time this has happened to this truck. Rip set up her shock mount right off the frame, and his last one, it just ripped the mount off. He was able to weld it back on. This time it ripped a whole chunk of frame with it. So, well, and he says this is the second truck this has happened to, so who knows if it's a design flaw or whatever. He said his other truck ripped it clean off like that, and insurance totaled it out. He uses it strictly for running up the mountains and chasing cats around and hounds. So I told him we'll fix it up, and if it comes off again, he'll know the truck is done, because it's going to rip the whole back of this frame off with it. So let's get to it. Well, I started getting his bed off. I got all the electrical undone underneath it. Started pulling these bed bolts, and Ford, please stop putting these stupid things on there. Put a real freaking hex head on top where you can put a socket on it and get them off. This one right here, you probably can't see it. Using the Torx bit that you're supposed to use to get them off, it broke the ears off that inside of that head. It broke all those little ears off and basically created a round hole. So we welded a nut on top of it. See if I can get that off. Then, instead of just having it set up to where they thread into the frame, build a sleeve that's tapped, welded part of the frame, whatever, they got nuts on the bottom side of them. And that one right there is just spinning. So I'm gonna have to cut the head of it off, punch it down through the frame, try to fish it out of there. And then when I put it all back together, I gotta find a nut and somehow fish it in there to put this bed back on. And as you can see, 1/2-inch breaker bar, cheater pipe. Let's see if we can get this damn thing off of there. I'm pretty sure it just broke the whole nut, or the whole bolt. That's exactly what it did. So that one broke off. So that's cool. And these front two mounts, you can actually get to the nut that's attached to the frame because they hang off the outside of the frame. The nuts are welded on. So right there, I'm gonna have to get underneath there, cut that nut off. Probably go get new hardware for all this. I'm gonna see if I can just find some regular grade 8 bolts with hex heads on them. Get some new nuts. I'll weld a new nut underneath there. Well, I got this thing all pressure washed off so I can get a better look at it. Kind of have a game plan set up. What I'm gonna do is cut this whole section of frame right here out. I'll go around this little brace that runs across member that goes all the way across. Same thing on the other side. Cut it down, come around it here. Try to rip that whole section out. And then what I'll do is I'll slide a piece of 2x4 rectangle tubing. I'll notch the bottom of the tubing so it can set over this. I'll weld all that in, you know, around here on each side. Weld them, then across, you know, whatever seams I could get, you know, seam here around all that, so on and so forth. After I get that built, weld it in, I'll clean it all up, and then I'll build me a big fish plate that will overlap the factory frame, come across, tie it all together over this section of factory frame, one on each side. Get all that welded in and in place. I'll have to let your bed mounting surface or bolt. What I'll do is I'll drill a new hole, which I already have it marked, you know, from this line. So I had a good reference point where it needed to go in here. I drew my center line so I can just run a straight edge across it, make sure I'm getting that centered up. What I might do when I set the rectangle tubing in here, I'll take my mag drill and I'll drill a hole that's a little bit bigger and maybe get a flange nut. Let's see, kind of show you what I'm talking about. Get a flange nut like so. Drill the hole big enough for the nut to set all the way down inside. So it's kind of sitting like so. And then I can weld across the whole lip of that. So the nut itself is recessed into that rectangle tubing. That'll give me a new spot to mount, to run the bed bolt through. This one, I'm gonna end up having to, I'll probably just cut this bracket off here because they have the little keeper thing that's supposed to keep the nut from spinning. It's all rounded off and smashed inside there. So I need to cut this off so I can get this old stud out of there. And I'll probably do the same thing. I'll drill this hole a little bigger, get me another flange bolt, set it down in there, weld it on. Same thing with that corner over there with the one that broke off. And we'll go from there. Get this plate done. Then I gotta design and build a bracket that comes up over here. It's gonna come off of here and kind of over the top of these leaf springs. Your shock mount comes in there and ties into it. But anyways, I think that's a good game plan. It'll make it sturdy, strong. Won't have to worry about I got that section cut out. It's kind of sloppy looking, but that'll all be hidden. And I just got to find a piece of tube that I can put in here. It's a little bigger than 2-inch, so I want to find something that's actually tight in there. I'll use some of these factory holes in the frame to kind of plug it in place. Like I said, I'll set it down in there to where it's flush across the top, notch the bottom of it, so it'll just sit over the top of this, and then just weld everything around it all. And once I get it all welded across it all, cleaned up everything, then I'll get to building the fish plates. And like I said, I'll run back here a little ways, fish plate it all the way across. I'll match this little hole here so the fish plate can sit over the top of it, because this recesses outside the frame a little bit. Do one on each side and get it all welded in. Then I'll get going on that shock mount. Try to make this thing look as good as possible considering how bad it was. Well, I got some of this frame stuff built up. I didn't video cutting any of this stuff out, making it up. So I had to do individual pieces. I didn't have any tubing. It's kind of an oddball size. It's not quite 3-inch, but it's bigger than 2-inch. And so I took a couple pieces here. This one is laid further down inside the frame, one on each side. This one is to make the difference between the frame and that other section there. And then I got this other piece. It's real ugly. It's pretty ugly. I couldn't get the software on my computer to transfer my cut files over for some reason. Anyways, that's why it looks so wonky and kind of ugly, but I mean, that'll go in there, weld all that up. So that'll fish plate it, make everything strong. Obviously all that'll be welded together with those holes holding together. I took a piece of 3-inch tubing and kind of cut it down. This will all tie together. By the time I weld that together and whatever, get this piece on there, then it'll weld a nice seam across all here, this to here, plus your different plug welds all the way across the bottom, all the way around. And this top piece right here, I'll grinder and kind of roll that taper on it, make it look good. But it's definitely going to be a lot stronger than the factory had it. I mean, just this one chunk of steel is almost double the thickness of the factory frame. So I got, by the time you get that, there's 3 layers there. And I'll end up painting between each layer. This one's already got coat of paint between this layer and this layer before I plug welded them together. So that's kind of what I'm going for. Like I said, it's not the prettiest because for some reason I couldn't get the cut files to, even though they're loaded up properly on the plasma table, it just wouldn't load into the cut program for some reason. I gotta look into that, but not too shabby for just cutting it out of hand. So. Well, you can see I got that all put together. Still got to weld across the bottom here, whatnot, and then I need to start building that shock mount. Like I said, it's gonna come off the top of here. That shock comes up right in here. So I gotta build all that, but that frame's definitely rebuilt, and it's a lot stronger than what it was even from factory. Give me some good mounting points for them shock mounts to come off of. And yeah, we'll go from there. I'll start designing shock bracket and get it welded on. And then we'll move on to getting this bed mounted back on here. Well guys, I got frame all done. I got the new nut inside the frame there. Shock mounts almost done. Just got to finish welding it up. Drill that hole through. Hook that shock up. Once that's done, we'll get to fixing these bed mounts and get this bed back on, get this guy on the road. Everything on here is going to be plenty stout. Only thing I'm nervous about is the clearance of this and the bottom of the bed. I kind of went off of what the factory mount was kind of sitting, and I'm about an inch and a half, maybe just about an inch taller on this as I was to that factory mount, but I think it's gonna work. Like I said, drill hole in that, get that bed bolt out and a new nut inserted in it. That one over there, get it out, new nut inserted in it. I got all new hardware for it. I'm gonna just put regular hex head bolts through, crank this spare tire back up, pull this thing out, get it flipped around, put the bed back on it, and we should be good to go. But this is way stouter than what the factory one was. So if he ever has an issue ripping this stuff off again, he's gonna need a whole new truck frame. Stay tuned. Well, shock mount's all done. Everything's done back here. Just got 2 bolts for mounting the bed to get out and put new nuts on and put the bed on this thing, and she'll be ready to rock and roll. I'm really happy with the way that turned out. It's really stout. So with this fish plate, there's 3 layers of this 1/8 inch plate or bigger inside there. This is some 2x3 120 wall tubing. This is quarter, this part of the mount is quarter wall, plus I have it double layered right here, so I could tie all that together. Obviously gussets. This thing's pretty stout now. Like I said, the only thing I'm worried about is clearance on top of here with the bottom of the bed, but looking at some of the other things that are mounted on this bed, it should clear. So I guess we'll find out when we get to that point, but shock's at a good angle. Like I said, I tried to go off of what I thought factory mount was sitting. Still got good amount of travel in that shock, good shaft showing, about the same as that other side. Well guys, got it all done. It's all back together. Got different hardware mounting everything down inside the bed. Make it easier to get off. Everything cleared. There was just a little bit right here of contact, maybe just barely set down on it. By the time I tighten it up, you know, I could have trimmed out of there, or even off of this, a 1/16 of an inch, and it would have cleared. I mean, you can see that it's barely down, but it's on, so everything looks good. Everything's nice and tight. Wiring's all back together, and anyways, that's it. Thanks for watching.